Hello, my name is Wes Estes, and today I have the good fortune of talking to Jim Thomas with Keyweb Concepts. And to tell you a little bit about Jim, because he has a interesting bio here. All right, so Jim, you were a native of Peru, New York, which is a small town, and I know I'm going to mispronounce this. Adirondack, how do you say it?
Adirondacks, yeah, the Adirondack Mountains.
Okay, of northern New York. And I'm going to stop there because I've never heard of Peru, New York. And I had to go in and do a little search on that to see where did this Peru, New York came out from. And what I found is that it is basically called this because the scenery represents the country of Peru and South. Did you know that?
South America, yeah.
South America. Sounds like a very interesting place. Is it a big place, small place? Or?
No, it's a very, very small area. As a matter of fact, I actually grew up in a town just outside of Peru called Peasleyville, with a population of 62 people. And at least back then. So I'm sure it's a little bit bigger now. You talk about a really small town America. This is, Peru is very small town.
Yeah, 60 some people. I'd say that's pretty small.
Yeah, Peasleyville sounds just as small as it actually is, but it's even smaller.
Exactly. Okay, so you studied graphic design and art education at the University of Buffalo, followed by postgraduate studies at the University of Florida, Gainesville. So you're a Buffalo and a Gator. Which one do you pull for in college sports?
Actually, I don't pull for Gators at all and stuff, but Buffalo, they've had a pretty good basketball team a few times, pretty good football. I played soccer there. Great school. Loved Buffalo during the summertime. Not so much in the wintertime. Avid Buffalo Bills fan since I was there. So
you begin your career as a freelance graphic designer while teaching art in public high school of Buffalo, New York, and Richmond, Virginia. And after moving to Virginia in 1994, you continued to teach art into 2001. And then you were hired as a marketing director, IT director, and web designer at an engineering firm in Chesterfield, Virginia. All right. And in the spring of 2006, that's when you launched Keyweb Concepts.
Correct. Yeah, I went out on my own. I had, learned a lot while I was working actually for ITAC, was the engineering firm, search engine optimization. That was one of the tasks that they had given me while I was there to actually learn how Google worked. Knew a lot about the graphic design and was big into computers also. So learned website design. But the big thing was kind of once I learned how to optimize websites to show up on Google, I was just like, I can do this for small businesses also. And that was my passion. Why I really got started in it was I recognized a need in the marketplace for small businesses who didn't have 10, 15 grand to spend on a website, but needed something that looked good and showed up in search engines. And back then it was either a big firm or somebody with a copy of Microsoft Front Page to build this little cheesy HTML website, and that didn't really do much and stuff. So that's why I started Keyweb back then. Still today, love helping small businesses succeed and kind of compete with the bigger guy. And that was the goal I always set out to, and so loved it with Google that they leveled the playing fields. You really couldn't buy your way to the top of organic search and stuff. And so it was really intriguing to me to be able to accomplish that, understand what they're looking for, design sites and develop sites so that they can rank really well. So.
Very good. All right. Well, Jim, I have 5 questions that I want to try to get through if we have enough time.
Sure.
And I want to start out with one of the questions that's very familiar to every single person on the planet: the issue with the pandemic, and what effect did the pandemic have on your business, if any?
Yeah. So the COVID-19 changed a lot with a lot of different businesses. And, I kind of looked at it in really almost stages of COVID. If you guys remember, back in early March, April timeframe of 2020, where it really started to take effect. I remember actually driving up to New York with my daughter for a long weekend with my parents, and driving this is end of May, driving up Interstate 95 and 81 and seeing billboard after billboard after billboard that was taken down, that was just vacant. And I've never traveled so fast up there because there's hardly anybody on the roads. You know, the country, for the most part, shut down and went inside. And they secluded, everyone was scared of getting COVID and everything. And so the traditional marketing, the billboards, the business cards, the brochures, you know, restaurants, people, you know, were all shut down. And so all this traditional marketing was at a standstill. I mean, nobody was meeting with anybody in person. So there's no business cards being passed, no brochures being passed, no, you know, folders and, you know, and handwritten proposals signed. I think everything went digital, through email, through Google, through Bing, through Yahoo, things like this. And so, but, you know, so that was one of the kind of the biggest initial changes, where it was just like the company kind of shut down for the most part. A lot of businesses were impacted. Restaurants had to basically shut down for a period of time, or pivot and shift their offerings to, you know, Grubhub and the mobile delivery for food became really their only option in a lot of cases. So you saw a lot of people either surviving and just hoping and then laying people off and you know, doing what they can. And the PPP loan was huge for a lot of businesses. But what was interesting about it was there was really two different groups of companies. Companies that, like the restaurant industry and stuff, that, and like limos, taxis and everything, that were dying. They had no money, and so they really needed the PPP loan just to survive. And then you had the companies that were thriving under this, you know, like the Amazon, like the home improvement stores, you know, the health food, the pharmaceuticals, you know, all these companies that, because of the pandemic, they were booming. Well, a lot of them also, especially the smaller companies, got PPP loan also. So, you know, kind of the next second stage there is you saw a lot of acquisitions, a lot of people shutting down their business or selling their business and going in and you know, taking jobs in other places. So we actually saw a lot of our customers that we've had for years and stuff that were very successful, all of a sudden struggling and end up selling their business. And so we did a lot of restructuring websites, rebuilding websites, redesigning websites. You know, the SEO became critical for a lot of people that before really didn't matter that much. You know, they're just like, oh yeah, we don't use, people don't, you know, search, try to find us online very often. All of a sudden they're like, that's their only way of finding them. And so we got a lot of calls about that. How do we do that? And you either had the people that had the money to do something with, or people that are just like, what can I do for the least amount of money because we're dying here. And so it was really tough to try to figure out how to help those. But that was probably the biggest thing, you know, and that kind of towards the end of that, really the kind of the picking up the pieces, trying to restart businesses, restaurants or anything, you know, how do we re-enter the marketplace? What do we do differently now that we understand things have changed and there's much more of a digital focus?
All right, gotcha. Okay. And so you personally, Jim, during this time, I mean, what were some of the challenges that you guys had?
For me, probably the biggest challenge that I had was watching the people struggle. The people that were, like I said, in those industries that were trying to hang on. You know, some of the businesses that they knew they were probably going to shut the doors if they were able to survive. You know, I'm a very empathetic person. I put myself in their shoes a lot of times. And when I see somebody that has done so many things right, and it's just really bad circumstances that there's just nothing they can do, to see them struggle, that was really hard for me. Because no matter what we did, we couldn't help certain companies because like I said, the restaurant industry. I remember one in particular who was a caterer who literally had months of catering jobs scheduled, and they even had a ton of this stuff in inventory, and all of a sudden they canceled. And what are they going to do? They've got all this food, they got all this stuff, everything and stuff, and now there's no events, and they have no way to sell it, and nobody get paid for it. So I was sitting here trying to figure out, how do we help them? How do we, put something on their website, a form for home delivery, or even just like pick up, come pick up food or things, stuff, just drive by. We'll make it easy for you to do that and stuff, and a low cost, just to try to cover their costs. So for me, just trying to help people figure out how to get through it was really hard.
Yeah, and just seeing them struggle, I can totally appreciate that. I mean, can't even imagine the restaurant industry, wedding industry.
Yeah.
I mean, all these weddings that were planned, and, they do these weddings like several years in advance. And these companies base what their income is going to be throughout the next 12, 24 months. And all of a sudden that door shut. I know for real estate, it was really scary, because at first it was like everything just stopped. And I was like, nobody's gonna be buying houses. I mean, it was just a helpless feeling, not knowing, what to expect next. And then obviously the real estate industry kind of went off on a boom. Well, that's another story or interview there. Let me ask you this. Now, you brought up this, I mean, the businesses that did thrive during this. I mean, everyone knows Amazon just
exploded.
Yeah.
I mean, everything went kind of digital and to home delivery. There was so much of a shift in focus to almost of a home focus. I mean, if you think about it, everybody was in home.
Right.
I would remember you could not find a home office desk in any store. They're gone. And it was because, I mean, ironically, we were in a transition of our business actually moving, and we were getting rid of a lot of desks, and it was like a buying frenzy. I had 5-6 guys showing up at the office where we were moving from, and fighting over a desk because that they wanted to put in their home, because there's nothing available. So everything shifted. You look at some of the businesses, Amazon, Microsoft, Verizon, Comcast, Grubhub, Netflix, because everyone's home watching reruns of shows, because a lot of new shows got canceled and everything, because the actors couldn't meet and continue to cast shows. Zoom, what we're on right now, exploded. And so because of the need, the necessity, Shopify, pharmaceutical companies, DocuSign, Square, Authorize.net, all these companies exploded because of necessity. If you look at all the home improvement things, and so why home improvement take off? Because people are home staring at it. I need to figure out something, how to restructure my guest bedroom into a office, because I'm going to be here for more often, I think. So the massive change in that, during that time. If you look at 75%, I think I was looking at this this morning, 75% of the website proposals that we did in the past 18 months, 75% of them were either construction based or healthcare based. 75%, which is usually like 30%. But it's just because those are the companies that were booming, and exploding. I mean, so the shift, like construction, there's so many different construction companies were just, they're so backed up with jobs, because they so many people needed it, and they can only do so much. So
right. So obviously it's changed the way that folks do business. I mean, in real estate, I see this when a buyer is looking for a home. I mean, that you brought up one of the points on that. One of the common questions is, I need to have a dedicated space, or a space that I can have a home office, because we're seeing more and more and more folks are working from home. Even though things have started to open back up, I'm still seeing a lot of folks still working from home.
Oh yeah.
And do you see businesses going back to the old way, or do you,
Well,
is the new
some,
norm?
yes. I mean, if you look at it, so like Capital One is example. Capital One, they've closed most of their brick and mortar locations and sold them, or leased them out or anything. So to opt for a permanent working remotely option. Amazon, is done a lot of the same thing. And so if a lot of their tech support, a lot of their people, they're working remotely, and that's probably not going to change. They completely shifted back towards a focus of working or staying remote on that. So yeah, yes, there's going to be some that do go back, but there's going to be a lot of them, I think, that are going to be permanently working remotely and trying to do things virtually.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, this question here is like a two-folder.
Sure.
Right. So let's say, a small business owner, how can you help them, and what makes you different than the competition or some of these other sites out here that you see advertised, hey, get their website for X amount of dollars per month or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah. So what makes you different, and how can you help, or how can you help small business owners get that exposure, especially in this time? And what makes you different from the other competitors out there?
Yeah, so there's website design companies are for the most part a dime a dozen. There's a ton of them out there. A lot of these companies are people that really have no formal education in website design or web development. As a matter of fact, you can become a web designer if you have a little bit of creativity, you have a little bit of understanding of the basics of design. And you can teach yourself how to install a theme like Wix or Squarespace or web.com or things like this. And the site builders and stuff that you can go and learn how to plot pictures here and text and banners. And, some of these stuff are really attractive looking sites. And that's one of the misnomers or misunderstandings is, when it comes to a website, to be successful for a small business owner, a lot of people don't understand that there's really two audiences that you need to meet. Everybody thinks about the second audience, not the first. The second audience is the potential client. Okay, the person that is searching for the products and services that you're looking for. Okay, let's say somebody is they're looking to sell their home. Okay. They know they need to find a good realtor. Okay. And you want them to find you. So you put a website out there. Okay. And you just okay, I've created my website, it's out there. Immediately, you just expect people just to come and find you. Well, how do they find you? Okay. If nobody has never heard about you, nobody knows anything about your business, and all they're looking for is a realtor in their geographic area, they typically go to Google. Okay, Google is responsible for almost all search now.
Okay, I'll do it. You're right.
So, and you don't say I'm going to go Yahoo this, or I'm going to use Bing it. You say I'm going to go Google it. It's a verb now. So you go into Google and you type in, whatever, selling your home in Chesterfield, Virginia, or selling real estate in Chesterfield, Virginia, and whatever. So they do that search to try to find, and you hope your website will show up in those results, correct? So if you think about that, what's the audience that you need to meet? It's the search engine. And a search engine, what is a search engine? It's a computer. It's a program. And so, a lot of website design companies, they'll build a website, they'll say, oh, here, it's beautiful, I love it, there's lots of pictures, there's might be some animation in there, and it looks just beautiful. But you go do a search and you can't find it anywhere. Okay, we always like it we use the analogy of, it's like spending $5,000 on a gorgeous billboard and sticking it in the middle of the woods. And it's like, oh, let me show you my billboard. You got to come over, well, you can take a piece of cardboard and stick it on I-95 and get a lot more traffic. So the first audience, if you don't meet that first audience, the search engine, you'll never actually reach the second audience unless you actually hand them a card, say, here's my web address, go to it. But then you've already made the contact.
Right.
Okay. So you've got to try to beat that first search engine, the first audience, which is the search engine. So that's what the biggest thing that makes us different. We are a website design company, but we're first and foremost an SEO company. We understand how Google works for organic search results, not the pay-per-click ads that you have to pay for every single click, but which is the only way you can really buy your way to the top of search engines. We actually design sites and develop them with SEO in mind, search engine optimization in mind. So when we get done those sites and do that initial round of SEO, you have a much better chance of showing up for search than a lot of the competitors that build those sites. And then we go and do monthly SEO to try to continue to tweak it and work you up the top and keep you there, because Google's constantly changing their algorithm. So what was effective at one point in time, through 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months later, now the algorithm's changed and it's going to change a little bit, I think. So, but yeah. So
let me ask you a quick question. I'm stop you there. Why does Google do that? Is it because they just want to?
Their number one goal in life is to provide the end user, the general Joe Schmo out there searching, with the most valid search results. Okay. So if there is if they do a search for selling your home in Chesterfield, Virginia, and Lowe's pops up, okay, because it's homes related or anything, is that a good result for that search?
No.
So Google looks and says, okay, if these results are what currently shows up based on our algorithm, okay, if there's sites that should be there but are not, we need to tweak it and fix that. Furthermore, there's other areas where web developers, web designers think of ways that, hey, I figured out an aspect of the algorithm and I can trick the search engine by adjusting the code to do this, to get my website to show up for a search result, even though it's not the best result. If that happens, Google's just like, okay, we got to fix that. So they fix it and implement change the algorithm to adjust for that. I mean, years ago, we used I even looked at that as at one point in time. Hey, put white text on a white background. Okay, if we can cite Chesterfield real estate 5,000 times on the page, nobody sees it except the search engine, which helped initially, but then they realized, well, that's not a good way to do things. That's not what we want. So they actually started penalizing for that.
Right.
So and Google is looking for people that do things right. They're looking for the best results. That's why they changed the algorithm. And that's why we continue to tweak it, to continue to modify it, and continue to improve it.
That makes sense. They're just trying to better their business like everyone else.
Correct.
And it is interesting how you say you get penalized, because I know you and I've had this conversation. I mean, you can get penalized if your images are too large and it takes too long to load. Is that correct? I mean,
oh yeah, actually, one of the biggest changes again recently is site speed. Okay, why is that important? Because nobody likes to sit there and wait for a page to load. They go to do Google search and a listing shows up or an option, and they click on it and they're waiting and they're waiting and they're waiting. Nah. Let me try something different. I'm tired of waiting. We live in a microwave society. Everybody wants it now, quick, fast. So user experience has become more important. Again, algorithm change. Okay, make it easier to try to find what they're looking for. Faster loading sites, easier, less clicks to try to find what they're looking for. And Google tracks all of that. Every single time you do a search and you click on a site and then you go back, Google remembers that. Guess what? That was not a good result. You weren't happy with that because you didn't even go past the homepage. You went right back to Google and found another one. So they actually record that and they penalize you just slightly. Okay, and everything is important to them. If on the other hand, if you clicked on that link and you went to the website and then you clicked on 6 other links through the website and you stayed there for 5 minutes. Okay, and then you never went back to the search engine, what does that tell them? You found what you're looking for.
Right.
So Google's like, oh, this was a good result. This was a success story. So why was it a success story? Because they found what they were looking for. And so again, that is where you hear people like, oh, it's how often people click on your website. Not really. It's how long they stay on there. To some extent, Was it a success for the people that were searching? That's what's important to Google. So all those things go into play in figuring how do we, calculate this algorithm to reward people.
And that's where you come into play by figuring this stuff out, and not only figuring out what works best so that people can find you, but also present that pristine website that we were talking about earlier. So you get that beautiful billboard, and now it's in the middle of 95.
Right. It's a balance. It's so very much a balance of aesthetics and functionality.
I know we said 5 questions and I answered the 5 questions, but real quick, I want to ask you this. Okay, with SEO, how does when I go in and do a Google search, it pulls up information, and then some of this information is websites, some of this information is video. So is video a good means for folks as well?
It is becoming more important. I mean, you think about it, what videos are showing up? YouTube. Why? Google owns YouTube now. They purchased YouTube. All right. So video is starting to become more helpful. People, they know that sometimes if you're looking for a certain result, you're trying to, you want to watch a video to see how something's done. So it depends in a lot of cases on what the question is. People even in SEO now are starting to search by question. How do I fix a leaky faucet?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, what's the best way to show someone how to do that? Okay. Well, a blog that has a video, or a YouTube video that has that video to show people that. So that's starting to become relevant in search, because now people are starting to go, they do the search and they click on, and they go to the tab that says videos. Let me just go look at a video for that. Well, when they do that, it's like, oh, okay. So this is something where people kind of want to see how it's done through a video. So that is starting to show up in search now. Again, just one way that they're trying to modify it to deliver what people are commonly going to do anyways.
Very interesting. So that's why, if you need to have a pretty website, be found, and all this other stuff, let the professional do it. So Jim, how would someone get a hold of you? How would someone contact you if they had?
Actually, a number of different ways. They can always call the main number 804-778-7600. And usually have somebody here that can answer some of the questions, schedule an appointment so we can talk to them. A lot of times we'll more than happy just to answer a few questions over the phone. We actually have a website, keywebconcepts.com. We have a small business website that's specifically for the little bit smaller companies that don't have as much of a budget. It's called emergerichmond.com. So there's a few different ways they can do that. They can also email me, jthomas@keywebconcepts.com, if they have questions also. But there's lots of different ways to reach out to us, or they can just simply do a search: web design, Richmond, Virginia.
There you go. So websites, graphic designs, SEO, you can help them with all that stuff. So
we even do print graphic design, print graphics, things like that. So
even if you don't even have an idea of what you want your logo and stuff like that to be, that's what Jim can help you with.
Correct.
Very good. Well, Jim, I want to thank you for your time. And again, if anybody has questions, definitely reach out to Jim. And thanks again, Jim.
Thank you very much, Wes.
Thank you.